Being mentally strong is something that's quite sought after, but really, what is it? And how do you achieve it? Now, I'm somebody that people close to me consider to be quite mentally strong. And today I'm going to spend some time sitting and thinking about why they think this of me, why I think this of myself, to be fair, and how it kind of plays into life. So sit with me and take some time to actually think about this for yourself and for those around you as well. It's an interesting thought, so let's go get into it. What's going on, beautiful people? This is the Perspective Chasers podcast, and I am your host, John. On this episode, we are thinking about mentally strong, or what makes you mentally strong. And as I said in the intro, it's something that I consider myself to be, and people around me consider me to be, and I'm not the only one that's mentally strong. There's loads of people, and people are mentally strong in different ways, and this, that, and everything else. But what does it actually mean? And what benefit is it going to bring you? Like, when you actually sit down and think about it, I mean, that's a mental act in itself. The art of thinking and kind of just being able to sit with your thoughts, ideas, and being able to process. Like, I say it all the time, think about life, think about the things that you're going through and how you're going to handle them, and it will help you deal with it better. That's a massive part of becoming mentally strong. Being able to sit with those thoughts, the good and the bad. Like, being able to sit in that and sort it out. Like a proverbial set of Christmas lights that you're untangling. That you don't know where the tangle starts, but you know if you sit there long enough, eventually they'll become untangled. There was a way they became tangled in the first place, and there is a way to untangle them. That's the same with life. And when you realise that no matter what problem life faces, if you sit in it and you actually aim to solve the problem and untangle those lights and figure out a way through, eventually you will find that clear path. You will clear that tangle and you'll find a way to move again. That is the core, at least to me, of mental strength. Not the fact that knowing that you can take it or this, that, or everything else. Don't get me wrong, that is a part of it. Like, there is definitely that sadistic part of being mentally strong where, at least for me anyway, it is, or I know I can take more. And I'm going to prove to myself and everybody else that I can go further, I can go harder, I can go more. So there is that side of mental strength. But that, like anything, has its risks of getting toxic. So it's something you need to keep in check. But that main idea of no matter what, if I put in the work, it will get better. Whether you buy a rundown house or a beaten up car, or you're out of shape, or your health's poor, or whatever it may be, no matter how bad the situation is, if you stand there and you say, cool, I'm going to own this situation and I'm going to make it better, no matter what, no matter how long it takes, I'm willing to do the work. That, to me, is the foundation of being mentally strong. Not just accepting it or whatever else, but being willing to work with what you've got. Not begrudging it, not hating the burdens that you have in life. We all have various burdens, and they're not always going to be burdens. Some of our burdens are blessings. They're what make us strong. They give us our strength, not our weakness. But that comes with hindsight often as well. So again, it ties back to that taking that time to think about it. And that more time you take to think about why you're doing these things, if it's something that you are willing to sit through and put in that effort. Because if it's not, why start it? Like, again, I suppose that's another aspect of being that mentally strong, is kind of being willing to stick to your guns. Being willing to stand on your own, by your own morals or whatever else. Like, I have this thing at the minute where I try to stay calm majority of the time. Like, I don't see benefit to losing my temper. If I'm honest, it's probably the one thing I fear in this earth, because that's when I'm out of control. And when I'm out of control, that's when I'll ruin my life. And who will I have to blame? Simply myself. So I keep myself in check, and I refuse to lose my temper for anybody else. So then when anybody else comes to me and they're irate or they've got a problem, it's fine. If I care about you, I'll sit with you. I'll hear about the problem. I'll let you vent. I'll let you shout and I'll let you scream. I don't care about the noise. But I'm not going to come to your level. You're going to come to mine. No matter how long it takes, eventually you're going to be out of gas. You're going to be exhausted from shouting. Shouting takes a lot of energy. I don't think people realize how much of their just overall energy shouting takes from you, especially shouting out of anger. So when you're willing to just sit with somebody in that and you refuse to elevate yourself to their irateness or whatever else, you say, no, you're going to come down. You're going to calm down eventually. It's fine. I'll sit with you. Shout all you want. I don't mind. But eventually you will calm down. That essence of grounding is so valuable to have in yourself, but also to have in those around you. Like having those people that are willing to sit in the proverbial shit with you, that is so valuable. And if you've got people like that in your life, thank them. Tell them how valuable they are. And if you haven't, those are the friendships that you need to build, at least in my opinion anyway. But hey, take my opinion with a pinch of salt. But building that mental strength, it is this slow process. It is much with every aspect of life, a combination of so many aspects. So if you've got a terrible social circle, it's going to be a lot harder for you to build that mental strength. You might find it easier because you find it more necessary. But again, people learn in different ways. So if you are somebody that's kind of built up those mental barriers through experience, pretty much like myself, then fair play. But share that with the world. Share that with other people so they can become mentally strong. Because, again, it comes down to the weakest link. We are as good as our weakest link. And if we all work on making our weakest link stronger, eventually the whole chain, the whole entity gets better. So put in the work, fix up the little things. And your mentality is going to be the ground of all of it. If you haven't got a solid mentality, you're not going to get very far. Like, I spent years as a personal trainer, right? And I can tell you now, what people need to train far more than their body is their mind. There's far more mental problems in a gym than there are physical problems. Don't get me wrong, some people got excess weight, some people are underweight, under-muscled, over-muscled, whatever their problems may be. But I guarantee you, every single person in that gym has a mental battle going on that they carry through that gym and they're working through day by day. And that same kind of work that you'd put in building and getting stronger at the gym and improving your physical health, that's the type of effort you have to put into your mental health. But mental health is one of those things where it's not seen. That mental strength and everything else, there's no gauge for that. There's no, oh, I've gone up a couple of kilos or whatever else. Oh, I've dropped a negativity mindset size or however you want to contextualize it. But it's there. And the more you realize it's there, the more you focus on it. Like that mind-muscle connection that I used to heavily preach so much of. The more you focus on it, the more you think about that connection when you're contracting a muscle, the more you think about that connection when you're contracting a thought or an idea, the more, how to say it? In a personal training sense, the better contraction you would get, the more work you'd be getting out of the muscle. So in the back end, you're going to be getting more growth in the healing and da-da-da-da-da. So that same sense would transfer into the mindset, but I can't find a way to phrase it properly at the minute. But hopefully you get what I mean. By putting in that mental training, by sitting with your thoughts, by doing the hard work, by untangling those Christmas lights, you'll find quicker ways, you'll find new methods, you'll build up the tools that are needed to become mentally strong. Just like you'll find new techniques and you'll be able to do new exercises, this, that, and everything else when you're getting physically stronger. The same happens when you're getting mentally stronger. Things become easier. To deviate from the negative mindset to the positive becomes easier because you know that pathway. When you're into training and you're past those kind of virgin gains and everything else, and you've got DOMs and that muscle tightness, if you go through a regular stretching session, you'll ease off a lot of that DOMs. If you're training to your capacity, you still should get some DOMs, but your rate of recovery is going to be so much quicker the more you get. Damn it, what's the word again? I'm losing my words. The more you get kind of climatized and adjust to that workload. That same thing happens with your mentality. The more you kind of shift your mindset from that negative to the positive, to the I can't do this to I can do this, to that from there's not a way to there is a way, the easier that change becomes over time. And it is a slow process, but when you put in that work, you realize it pays off. And once it starts paying off, much like in the gym, you want to perpetuate that. You want to keep it going. So put in that work in your mindset. It comes slowly, but it does come. And you've got to do that work. It takes the time. You've got to put in the reps. You've got to put in that work. But if you want to become mentally strong, which everybody should be able to sit with any stress their life may throw at them and deal with it. Because it's their life, it's their responsibility. So take that time and be aware of it. Be aware of how you're interacting with the world, how the world perceives you, and how you want your actions to unfold. Taking that time to think about it is going to build up that kind of that conscious mind connection, and you'll know why you're doing things instead of just going through the motions of life, which is so easy to get stuck into. Like, I'm somebody that falls into routine so, not necessarily so easily, but once I've built that routine, it's very easy for me to keep it up. So once I fall into a routine, good or bad, it can be hard to break that. So if I get stuck into a mindset of negative thinking and that, it can be hard to break that. But again, I have to remind myself of those tools. That's another part of like being mentally strong, is it's not a constant straight line. It's not to say that your mindset's never going to dip. I still have bad days. I still have days where it's harder to freaking get up and go about the day. But I still do. I still put a smile on my face. I still think about the good and remind myself there is a lot of good in life. But because I do that so much, it's so much easier now to shift my mindset and kind of be like, well, duh, you've got all of this to be kind of grateful for and happy about. Why be sad? Why be angry? Why be grumpy? Just, there's always going to be negativity in the world. There's always going to be bad aspects of life. There's always going to be things you want in life. There's always going to be things out of reach. But that being said, there's always going to be things that you already have that you once wanted. There's always going to be things that you can do right away. Like, no matter how you think about things, whatever you want in the world is out there. No matter what time of day you see this, if you want to see the moon, there is somewhere in the world you can go to see the moon. If you want to see the sun, there's somewhere in the world you can go to see the sun. It's not to say it's right at your feet, but there is an action that you can take that will allow you to have that experience. The same is said with your mindset. If you want to live a positive life, if you want to be a happy person, you can get there. But you have to put the work to get there. You have to do the moves, and those moves are building that mental fortitude, building that mental strength and those tools in your arsenal so you can know how to navigate these problems. Because life is always going to throw you problems. Like, we're all buzzing around our life. We all have ripples onto other people's lives and everything else. Like, people you never even met or know are making the clothes that you're wearing right now, built the house that you're living in, built the car that you're driving, Like, they all had an impact on your life, but you'll never meet that person. You do the same to other people. So the better you approach life, the better you're putting positivity and just the better you're putting out things in the world, the better the world that you live in is going to be. And isn't that going to make your experience in itself better? So again, that ties back into kind of strengthening up those weaker links. People need to stop taking advantage of the less fortunate or the weaker people and instead build them up, because that's going to make life easier for all of us. Like, we seem to live in this world at the minute, or for some time now, that not only thrives of keeping people down, but thinks it's the only way to succeed and the only way that things can be. But there are so many possibilities to life. There are so many ways in which things can work. There's not just one possibility. Like, for all of the conversations that you could have about the potential for life and is it a miracle that we're here and why are we here and da 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 da. If all of that is possible in these infinitesimal odds, how is it possible that there is only one way we can continue? That seems fairly redundant. There are people living ways of life completely differently all around the world. There are some people that know nothing different than delivery and Uber Eats or maid services or chef services or this or that. And there's other people that know nothing but hunting and gathering still. But yet, more often than not, the two are completely oblivious to one another. But yet, they live completely different lives at the exact same time. And that is fascinating, and it proves that there is more than one way to live. There's more than one way for societies to thrive and humans to thrive and the world to thrive. But yet we seem to convince ourselves that there's only one way. Why is that? Why don't we take that time to think about, well, how better can we do this? What can we do to strengthen up those weaker points and build up humanity as a whole? What's so hard about that? But I suppose I kind of answer that in myself in my head instantly when it's like, well, that's what the weak people fear. Because weak people will only keep control while the others are oblivious or unknowing of their strength or unaware that they're even being controlled or unaware that things are going on. But you can't keep people asleep forever. Eventually people wake up and new horizons are among us. And with 7 billion, 8 billion people in the world, the possibilities for life are endless. The possibilities in which humanity can veer and take different paths, and you never know what the future brings, is absolutely endless. So think about it from that positive perspective of, although there is a lot of bleak projected at the minute, if you actually take time and sit with it, most of our lives in the immediate are pretty good. Like, the quality of life overall, for most people around the world, is better than it is hundreds of years ago. But that in itself is a individual kind of perspective, because again, that's from my life. There are other people that may not be having such a pleasant experience right now. And it's never to discredit that, but you've always got to see what's within your control and what's within or without of your control. And I know that I work very hard on putting a lot of positivity in the world where I can, and I try to build up those people around me. So I at least know that my actions hopefully ripple out positively. And I'm going to keep doing that. And you never know, they may ripple out to the people that are having a negative experience and better their lives. Hopefully they do. But again, it's not doing nothing. It's not to say this is all I'm going to do and I think I'm making the world a better place just by doing this. But everything starts somewhere, and you have to start to untangle those lights. And I guess in a lot of ways, this is you seeing me start to untangle those lights for myself. Like I said many times, sitting here talking to you guys gives me that time to think about life, and it helps with my mental strength to get it back on topic. The more time you sit with thoughts and think about how am I going to run this thought process and how can I actually be coherent and how does this make sense? Like, what is there to think about for 15, 20 minutes or whatever else when I'm rambling on my own? Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I battle with it and it is hard to keep that conscious thought chain going and keep myself on track, and sometimes I tangent, but the more I do it, the better I get. It kind of ties into that rule of 10,000 hours that is so heavily preached by so many people, which again shows the truth in life, that it might feel like an absolute overwhelming thing, but if you start 10,000 hours, eventually you'll start chipping away at it, and then it's 9,000 and then 8,000, and you'll be getting better along the way. And if it's something you enjoy, you won't even be counting the hours. So that time will go a lot faster, but you have to start. And just with anything, it is that thing of starting and keep going back to it. Again, you can go back after 100 hours and be like, damn, I haven't mastered this. Okay, cool. You've got 9,900 more to go before you can rightly say that it didn't work. So put in the hours and find out. The same is with your mentality. Like, you can't sell yourself up the river until you've put in the work. So put in the work, sit there and think about it. Like, and find a way to force yourself to think about it. This forces me to think about life. Like, I can't sit here and read a script. I wouldn't be able to talk like me. I wouldn't be coherent. I would lose focus even more than I do when I'm thinking off the bat. So take that time to think and get that groove in your mind kind of walked repeatedly, so it's ingrained and it becomes an easier path. Just like anything, if you found a shortcut through the woods, the first time you find it, you might have to take a load of brambles out the way. But the more times you pass that pathway, you'll find a well-worn path that's easier to walk. And the same is with mindset and life. The more you walk that path and the more you stick with that kind of mentality, train of thought, and just those practices, the easier it will get to kind of bump yourself back on them when you do get off track. Because it's going to be the more like the default setting, where it's going to be the common place where your mind goes. It's like, okay, cool, well, the deepest groove for us to slip into is the positive one. So that's where we're going to go, because there's always going to be something to focus on that's positive. Just find it. Just like the sun's always shining somewhere. There's always something positive in life somewhere. So just look for it. And the more you look for it, the easier it will get to find. And over time, life will start feeling better. And that kind of process becomes easier. And then before you know it, you'll be like, damn, I'm handling life a lot easier than I once was. And then you'll ask yourself, am I mentally strong? And how did I get here? And you'll hopefully sit there and think about it and realize that you've done the work. Without even realizing it, you put in those 10,000 hours. You started to master your mind. You took control of your life and you made it better for you and everyone around you. And then you'll be grateful to yourself. And that will help you feel so much better in life, so much better about yourself. And it will help you hopefully teach others the same and subsequently make the world a better place. So I guess I'll end this one with saying, take that time to work on your mindset. If you have a good one, think about why you have a good one. If you have a bad one, think about why. And start doing the work to fix it. Because it's your mindset, and it's only you that's going to put in the work to fix it. If you don't put in the work to fix it, it's not going to get fixed. It's one of those things of, if you don't put in the work and if you don't give it the attention, why should anybody else? It's your life. Take control of it. Put in the work. And I'll leave it there because I think I may start going in circles if I go on much longer. But the seed for this episode is going to be... What was last week's one? Do something fun. This is about mindset. Oh, I really can't think at the minute. Alright. So the seed for this episode is going to be, find one problem in your life and fix it. No matter how big or how small. Find one problem and fix it. Start there and see how you feel. If you want, go into another one. But just one thing. Set yourself a goal of fixing one so-called problem in your life, a week or a month. And start making that a regular practice. And eventually, those problems will diminish. And just like the 10,000 hours, eventually you'll get to the end of it and you'll realize you mastered life. And now you're far happier, you're in a far better place, and you're ready to pay it forward. So go out there and do it. All the best, and I'll catch you on the next one.